Okay, let's dive in. Picture Delhi. The monsoon of 2017, you know that feeling, right? But thick, heavy air.
Oh yeah, inescapable.
Exactly. But layered on top of that was this real political intensity. Ramnath Kovind had just become president.
Which meant suddenly the vice president's office was up for grabs. Hamid Ansari was finishing his term.
Right. And into this really charged atmosphere steps Gopalkrishna Gandhi. The name itself, it just resonates, doesn't it? Grandson of the Mahatma, and C. Rajagopalachari, too.
It felt like such a surprise candidate, almost out of nowhere in that specific moment.
Totally unexpected. What struck me was just how fast it all seemed to happen. 1 minute, the post is vacant. The next, this incredibly significant name is being floated.
Yeah, it speaks volumes about how quickly political winds can shift, especially when there's a transition like that. Things can move at lightning speed.
So get this. It's a pretty ordinary morning in July 2017. Gopal Krishna Gandhi, he's actually on his way out to Ashoka University near Sinapat.
Right, the historian Rudrangsham Mukherjee had invited him.
That's the one. He's preparing to give a lecture focused on India's civilizations, history, deep past stuff. Definitely not national politics at that moment.
And then the phone rings. It's amazing how these life-altering moments can just interrupt a completely normal day.
It really is. And on the other end, Sonia Gandhi, Congress president.
Wow, that's a significant call to get.
You're telling me. And she asks him, straight up, would he consider being the combined opposition's candidate for vice president?
Just like that. Talk about putting someone on the spot. 1 minute, Harappan seals. The next, Rashtrapati Bhavan adjacent.
Exactly. And the time frame she gave him, 1 hour.
1 hour. Seriously.
1 hour to decide. Think about the decisions we make in an hour, what to have for lunch, maybe answer a few emails.
Yeah, not deciding whether to run for the second highest office in the country. It's immense pressure.
Immense. It just highlights how urgently the opposition was scrambling. You had this coalition, about 18 parties?
Something like that. Congress, CPIM, Trinamool Congress, JDU was even in the mix initially.
Right. They needed a consensus candidate, and they needed one fast, before the NDA even showed their hand. And Gandhi, with his reputation, his integrity.
And that lineage, you can't ignore it. He seemed like the perfect fit for what they were looking for at that moment. Someone with moral standing.
Let's just pause on him for a second. Gopal Krishna Gandhi, born April 1945. And yes, the grandfathers, Mahatma Gandhi, C. Rajagopalachari, India's last governor general. That's huge.
It's an incredible legacy. But it's so important, I think, to look beyond the names and see his own journey.
Absolutely. His own career is substantial. He did his master's in English Lit at St. Stephen's.
A very distinguished college.
Then into the IAS, served in Tamil Nadu, did important work, quite different perhaps, with tea plantation workers in Sri Lanka.
That shows a different kind of engagement, doesn't it? Not just high administration.
Definitely. He was joint secretary to President Venkaiah, ran the Nehru Center in London, high commissioner in South Africa, Sri Lanka, Lesotho, ambassador to Norway and Iceland.
Quite the diplomatic CV.
And then governor of West Bengal. People remember that tenure. He was critical of the Nandagram violence, famously went on these incognito visits to villages.
Right, trying to get a real sense of things on the ground. That speaks volumes.
Plus, he's a writer. Translated Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy into Hindi. Wrote his own novel, Saranam, about those Sri Lankan Tamil workers.
So you're talking about someone with deep administrative skill, international perspective, a clear ethical compass, and, well, literary sensibility too, not just a famous name.
Not at all. So back to that call, 60 minutes, this speed dating version of democracy.
He must have consulted his family in that hour.
He did, talked it over, and incredibly, he agreed, said yes.
That suggests a real sense of civic duty, perhaps, knowing the odds were likely long, but feeling the need to step up.
I think so. And the opposition's thinking, it was interesting, his name had apparently come up earlier for president.
Right, but then the NDA chose Ramnath Kovind, a Dalit leader.
So the opposition countered with Mayor Kumar, also a Dalit leader. But then for VP, his name resurfaced, proposed this time by the Trinamool Congress.
And crucially, got unanimous backing from all 18 opposition parties, at least initially.
Which is pretty rare, getting that kind of unity across the board in Indian politics.
It really highlights how strongly they felt about his potential candidacy at that specific point in time.
But of course, the NDA wasn't sitting idle. On July 17th, they announced their pick, M. Venkaiah Naidu.
A very seasoned BJP hand, a union minister known for his powerful speeches.
And importantly, from Andhra Pradesh, A strategic choice, maybe, for Southern outreach?
Definitely a factor. And Naidu brought a different kind of political weight, a lifetime within the party structure, very much an organizational stalwart, a clear contrast.
And let's be frank, the numbers look tough for Gopalkrishna Gandhi from the start. There were 771 MPs voting.
And the turnout was expected to be, and was, incredibly high, over 98%.
But with the NDA's majority in parliament, well, the arithmetic was clearly favoring Naidu.
It was always going to be an uphill battle in terms of votes. That's just the reality of parliamentary numbers when a government has a strong majority.
But Gandhi himself framed it differently. He told ANI, and this quote really stuck with me, "It's a fight based on constitutional principles, not personal rivalry."
That's such a key statement. It shifts the narrative, doesn't it? It's not just about winning, it's about standing for something fundamental, making the election a platform for ideas.
Exactly, elevating the contest. And amidst all this seriousness, there was this lovely little moment he shared.
Oh.
He bumped into Hema Malini, the actress and BJP MP, in Parliament.
The dream girl herself.
The very same. And he apparently started speaking to her in Tamil, said, "Yen Peyar Gopalkrishna Gandhi." My name is Gopalkrishna Gandhi.
Oh, that's charming. How did she react?
Apparently delighted.
Yeah.
She replied, "Oh, Ninga Tamil Pesarangala Epadi." Like, "Oh, you speak Tamil. How come?"
And what did he say?
He explained it was his mother's language, through his grandfather, Rajagopalachari. "Amam, aduyentain mozi, ningal rajajin peyar kitipenga." Yes, it's my mother's tongue. You must have heard of Rajaji.
And she knew Raji, of course.
Enthusiastic nod. It's just a sweet moment of connection, across party lines, based on language and shared history.
Those human moments are important. They remind you that underneath the political battles, there are people connecting on different levels.
Definitely. But then you also had his firm stances. He was strongly against capital punishment.
Yes, I recall that. He'd even written to Pakistan's president about Kulbhushan Jadhav, pleading for clemency.
Exactly. A deeply held principle for him, but also, potentially controversial for some voters or sections of the political spectrum.
Sticking to a principle like that, even if it's unpopular, says a lot about his character, I think. Integrity.
For sure. But that initial opposition unity we mentioned, it started to fray a bit.
Ah, yes, the JDU, Nitish Kumar's party.
They had initially backed him. Nitish Kumar apparently even gave him personal assurances. But then they switched sides. Supported Naidu.
Which wasn't entirely surprising, perhaps, given they'd also backed Kovind for president earlier. Coalition politics can be, well, fluid.
Very fluid. Gandhi's public reaction was quite measured, though. He just noted their earlier independence from NDA in the national context. A subtle acknowledgement of the shift.
That's politics, isn't it? Constant realignments and strategic calculations.
But he did have solid allies who stuck with him. The BJD, Naveen Patnaik's party, AAP, and the left, particularly the CPIM. Sitaram Yechuri was apparently a very strong supporter.
Right. That indicates a certain ideological alignment there, a commitment to his candidacy, despite the numbers.
So Election Day arrives, August 5th, 2017, Parliament House, voting from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
And that really high turnout, 771 MPs voted, 98.21%. They even used special pens, remember?
I do, to ensure ballot integrity, and the results came in.
Venkaiah Naidu, 516 votes. Gopalkrishna Gandhi, 244 votes, and 11 invalid.
And Gandhi's reaction was just full of grace. He thanked everyone who voted for him, said he was more than satisfied with the handsome performance of the united opposition vote.
Focusing on the collective effort, the principle, not just the personal outcome, it reinforces that message he started with.
Exactly. Naidu, for his part, promised to uphold the Constitution, strengthen the Rajya Sabha's dignity. PM Modi tweeted congratulations, praising his diligence and dedication.
And Gandhi wished Naidu well, too, right?
He did. Those post-election pleasantries, they matter in a democracy.
They absolutely do. Maintaining that level of decorum is crucial for the system's health.
What's also fascinating are the whispers from behind the scenes. Apparently, some in the opposition wanted to run a negative campaign against Naidu, maybe dig up some allegations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but Gopalkrishna Gandhi himself stepped in, said no, reportedly even spoke to Rahul Gandhi directly about it, urging against it.
That's quite something. Shows a real commitment to a certain kind of politics, even when the stakes are high. Real statesmanship.
I thought so too. And it sounds like Sitaram Yechuri was key in just managing that complex 18-party coalition throughout the process.
Keeping that many diverse groups on the same page, even for a short campaign, is a huge challenge. It highlights the difficulties inherent in opposition unity.
Looking back, that whole election felt like more than just a contest for an office. It felt like it tapped into bigger questions about Indian democracy in 2017.
Definitely. You had ongoing debates about identity, about the nature of governance, about inclusivity. It was a moment of significant national conversation.
And Gandhi's candidacy seemed to offer a distinct counter-narrative, didn't it? Against what some called the NDA's muscular majoritarianism.
Yes, a clear articulation of secularism, of justice. Remember, he'd written that open letter to Modi back in 2014, urging him to govern for all Indians.
That's right. And you see his human side, too. In his memoir, The Undying Light, published much later in 2025, he talks about wanting the office but being wary of ambition's dangers.
That self-awareness is interesting. It adds depth.
Yeah.
You see it in the Hema Malini story, the principled stands. He wasn't just a symbol.
Not at all. So even though he didn't win, the candidacy itself made a mark. He even declined a potential presidential nomination in 2022.
And he's continued his work, right? Teaching, writing, speaking out on issues like federalism, celebrating the Dravidian ethos.
Exactly, still contributing to the discourse. And that memoir, The Undying Light, gives his perspective on this whole period.
Ultimately, his run for VP in 2017 is a powerful reminder, I think, that democratic contests aren't just about the vote count. They're about participation, conviction, the ideas put forward.
And maybe, yeah, a bit of unexpected charm, too.
Perhaps.
So, wrapping this up, Gopalkrishna Gandhi's surprise run for vice president back in 2017. It didn't change the electoral outcome, but it was definitely a significant moment. It really reflected the state of play in Indian democracy then and the values he stood for.
And hopefully you listening now have a much richer sense of that time, the people involved, and the principles that were really being debated, going way beyond just the headlines.
It does make you think, though. What's the role, the real impact of people with that kind of strong moral compass in politics, even when they don't win the immediate race?
How does a candidacy like his actually influence the broader conversation, the values we talk about, and maybe prioritize as a society?
It's a good question.
Definitely something to mull over.
And if you want to explore more, you could certainly dig into the 2017 elections themselves, read up on Gandhi, Naidu, Sonia Gandhi, Nitish Kumar, or explore those concepts of secularism and federalism in India today.
And of course, there's his memoir, The Undying Light, for his own take on it all.
Lots to potentially follow up on.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into what was, in many ways, a fascinating footnote in recent Indian political history, but one that tells us quite a bit.